Let's talk about Shanquella. I also want to talk about the Mexico City carbon monoxide deaths. And I wanted to talk about how these two incidents, for me, really represent a failure of community. The Shanquella situation in particular feels like the way the news is spreading. Man, I got on the bus today in DC and the bus driver asked me where I'm from. And I'm like, Charlotte. And she's like, oh, that girl that was murdered. And I'm like, yeah. And the bus driver, as an older Black woman, just spent so much time talking to me. And girl, I was really not trying to have this conversation with her. I really was not. She spent so much time telling me all the things she had supposedly heard about Shanquella's murder. Shanquella went on a birthday trip to Cabo San Lucas with friends and never made it home. And it's stated that like within 24 hours, she was dead. Now her friends came back to the Charlotte, North Carolina area, and one friend even was at the mother's house, like talking about, because they, informed the family that Shanquella had passed away, but they said it was because of alcohol poisoning. And one of the people that was in the house lying about the cause of death was posted up in Shanquella mama house trying to support her through the grief, and then disappeared once the autopsy report came back and said, no, this young lady died because of a broken neck and spine. Now, Cabo San Lucas is a tourist center. I went there last Christmas. I went to Cabo, Mexico City, and Oaxaca. And Cabo was my least favorite part of the trip. It is the beach, but it is like America. It literally is, it's like Baja Sur, California, Mexico. It is California. It's a Costco. I had my whole life, because, I'm a Costco bitch, all right? But it's like a white retiree town. Like, I couldn't get any spicy food. It's a little bit more expensive, and it is totally catering towards white Americans who moved to this area post-retirement. So I'm saying that to say, because I think when we talk about people passing away while on vacation, and what I'm also going to talk about with the Mexico City thing, is that people's minds immediately go to like rural or like lack of infrastructure. Mexico is not third world, okay? Mexico has infrastructure. It is a well-developed country. Like every country that has had to feed into capitalism, it has its down points. There are people suffering in the country, but like a place like Cabo especially is so attuned to wealthy white Americans that they have all the staple things needed to like you could be taken care of. Like there's no quality of life lost while you're in Cabo. But so much news has spread about this story across, again, the Instagram, the gossip blogs, the hood news outlets. Everybody's trying to be the TMZ. And I guess because I live in Charlotte and I see so much of the local stuff is popping up on my page where people are making claims, and it's like, okay, well, how do you verify it? And then, all these Black owned websites that don't necessarily have journalistic integrity are reposting the story that, supposedly the friend Dejanay Jackson, former friend, was arrested. And then, there was this whole news about her being transgender. Just a lot of misinformation that flows. But this is the young lady who supposedly the arrest warrant is out for. I am not going to play the video. The video to me is very grotesque, that a naked Shanquella, who clearly is not interested in fighting, is being fought by whomever it is. But like, this is a friend vacation. And if like the pieces of her Shanquella's social media that I've seen highlight a young Black woman who liked to travel and was traveling with these friends. And, whatever you want to make of it, whether even if it's done for Instagram and, this, I got a passport and I'm in my bag and this is the means that I got type, performance of a lifestyle. She was doing it. That was a life she was living. So why are these women like, what? I don't know. In what situation would I literally put hands on a friend, especially at a point where they're telling me they don't want to fight? In the video, you hear Shanquella saying, no, she's not defending herself. She has her hands over her head. Like, even if, like, once you, I understand anger to the point where you want to slap someone, but the continual, like, beating up of somebody, and then her friends watching and saying, fight back, and everybody being in on it, like, it's such a failure. It's a multitude of failure of community. Are you only with these people because they can keep up with your lifestyle, so you're just using them for, again, how you visually present your lifestyle on the internet, but you have no true care or compassion for them? There's nobody who I truly call a friend that I could ever imagine wanting to fight me and then fighting me naked and recording it. Like, come on. It's just too many things you have to get to before you even get, like, in order to get to this young lady losing her life in the process, that make you say, why did nobody stop and say, this is a person that I care about? This is a friend. Like, let's have some dignity and respect with each other. There's a better way to handle whatever the disagreement is. Like, this is ridiculous. I think this story has really, really caught on because now the FBI is involved, and Mexican authorities do have an arrest warrant out for one of the people. They have never publicly said the name, and it's actually at this point not clear what's going on, like how these people disappeared. The local news here has gone knocking on their doors and calling their cell phone numbers, but only two of them still, it's two of the five or six people still had their phone lines connected at the time the reporter called them, and then he went to their houses and nobody answered the door. And so it does appear that these people are trying to, like, disappear. But I'm just going to say, be careful of the news that you consume around this. I personally am not really interested in hosting any conversations about it, like, in person, because everyone just wants to talk about, like, what they think is happening, and, or, like, and everyone's kind of showing their biases, right? Whether they're homophobic, they're transphobic, they're misogynist, right? It no longer really comes about being about netting justice for Shanquella, because if we're going to net justice for it, then obviously at this point we need to pay attention to what her family is saying about the situation and respecting her family and their privacy. And what's crazy to me is this conversation is, like, picked up so much on social media, and people, it's real easy to say justice for Shanquella and again, we're invested in the spectacle. We are invested in this idea of, oh, who gonna get taken down? How's the story gonna go? We're not invested in really netting justice for young Black women or keeping other Black women safe. Because I recently saw on TikTok, like, a montage of videos talking about a young girl who's finna get beat up by a bunch of people because she's the person behind a gossip page for her high school. And people are, like, laughing and making light of the fact that, like, there's a scheduled fight. How are we just talking about Shanquella? How are we just posting her image, talking about how sad we need justice, and then we move on to celebrating a Black woman getting beaten up? Like, is there no other way to handle this? Is there no other way to net accountability? Well, no, because we don't actually have frameworks of community. And accountability needs community in order to be administered. And I think it's just so unfortunate. Now, the other thing that I wanted to talk about was the Mexican trio who was found dead. 3 young African Americans were found dead in their Mexico City Airbnb, which they had gone out to celebrate the Day of the Dead, Dia de la Dia de la Muertes. Is that how you say it? Now, I did a TikTok about this. I think what is getting me about this story is, again, the failure of community. So the young lady in this trio has a boyfriend, and he did an interview with People magazine. So this is what this young man admitted to in this interview with People. Boyfriend of American woman found dead in Mexico City Airbnb shares final fearful messages. Essentially, these 3 young African Americans passed away from carbon monoxide poisoning. And she has a non-Black boyfriend, if that context matters to you. She actually FaceTimed her boyfriend, okay? Not just called. This young lady FaceTimed her boyfriend to tell him that she was feeling ill. She FaceTimes me, he continued, and that's when I clearly see she's vomiting. She's been crying. I mean, her whole face was wet, crying or vomiting, or maybe she splashed water on her face. They said the conversation continued before he dozed off for probably about 5 to 10 minutes. And when he woke up, their phones were still connected. By now, the phone screen is pitch black as if she put the phone down or the phone fell, but the camera side is facing the ground. So I don't see anything, but I could hear something going on in the background. And I put my ear to my phone, and it sounds like her vomiting or dry heaving or both. Day said he recalled telling himself everything's going to be okay. He believed if she'd been drugged, throwing up and then sleeping it off would help. She'll go to sleep. She'll wake up the next morning and she'll tell me all about what could have happened. He remembered. Nigga, you ain't shit. You ain't motherfucking shit. Now, I do feel like you should feel guilty. No, there's not a whole lot you can do with your girlfriend in Mexico City and you back home in the States. Get on Google Maps. Ask her to send you the address for where she's at. What's your Airbnb? I said it to you before. Whatever information you can get out of her, get out of her. Then look up local medical care. Tell her to leave the apartment. So at the point when you pick the phone back up and you can hear that your girlfriend, and why would you even go do an interview with People Magazine and admit to any of this? Like, are you that? No, you are that stupid. You like, tell her to open it was carbon monoxide. Literally opening a window, going outside. Something like, it's really, really small things that could have entirely changed the course of 3 young people needlessly losing their lives. Now, no, the boyfriend isn't the sole blame, but it's just like, I don't know, when you're in distress and you make like that one call, a little bit more care that can be offered could have possibly saved her life.